foremost, guys, before we actually get into it, what I'd love to do is, because one person who we really wanted to be here and who really wanted to be here herself was Stacey O'Carroll, who is also a George Moore Scholar winner this year and is in New York studying design for the next 2 years. She just wanted to say a few words and to kind of talk to the students. So we created a little bit of a video yesterday, and I am just going to play it now, and then we'll get into our discussion. I hope that's okay with everybody. So I'll just press play. Oh yeah, hold on a second now. Probably didn't do that right, actually. Give me 1 minute. Always the technical hitch that will happen at the beginning.
Hi, I'm Stacey O'Carroll, and I'm in New York studying for my master's in information experience design at Pratt. I will be graduating in October from visual communication design at IADT, and I'm on the George Moore Scholarship, as Tina and Laura will be explaining. And I decided to apply for the scholarship back in November when it was mentioned in Dawn's career emails on every Friday. And basically, I was researching masters like in the months before that, and then I saw this opportunity to study in the US and decided to just go full force at it and applied to colleges and filled out the application that was super simple and straightforward and really well designed. And I just wanted to, I had been in the US 2 years previous before COVID happened, and I really enjoyed and loved being around here. So I thought I'd really enjoy coming back for college. And the design programs here were amazing. All 2 years covered lots of ground on like research and practical applications as like information design specialists. And Dawn was asking how my scholarship experience was. So I think it's really benefited all of us that are here and have gone through the program, as you don't have that financial worry about paying for fees or your day-to-day living and like books and everything to do with college, and you can really just focus on your experience and getting fully like immersed in your studies. And I'm sure anyone in IADT is used to the pace that we all work at, so it's great to have the time and the headspace to actually focus on it. And the scholarship has been amazing. The support is so good. And I think anyone should really go for it because there's such a scope of people that they're looking for and courses that they like appreciate and industry. And I think if I had tips for somebody applying right now, it would be to just broaden your search, look to anywhere that you'd like to study in or any course. Like there's no limits, just see what's out there, because I definitely did not think that this time last year that I would be sitting here in New York for the next 2 years studying in such an incredible city. Yeah, that's
go.
There's one more thing. If anybody is coming from a design background and wants to apply to graduate level colleges here, the US colleges run a national portfolio day. It's usually, I think, the middle of November or the start of December, and they held it online last year. So you can enter virtual booths from each of these colleges, sign up for meetings, and then walk through your portfolio with admissions staff, which I found really helpful coming from undergraduate to graduate level to see if there was projects that were hitting the mark or if I needed to maybe condense it down, which I definitely did. Yeah, and you could kind of get the opinion of people at that level and see what you should change before you even start your applications to those colleges. So I found it really helpful. So that's something to look up, is the National Portfolio Day.
So really, really good testimonial from Stacey there in terms of the program and, the benefits that it gave. I mean, one of the things that we had been talking about, was, you know, she talked about having to pinch herself sometimes because she's now living in New York and she's studying there, and she's got this amazing opportunity to do this, you know, and she talked about this community of other scholars that are there, who are other George Moore scholars. There are like 7 of them in New York, and they meet up sometimes, and they're from completely different backgrounds. They're doing completely different courses, but it's really interesting, you know, that they have each other, and that they, you know, that they get to talk together and work together. So so really interesting discussion with that. Very badly filmed. You heard my go, because there was another thing that she wanted to add at the end there. So sorry about that, everybody. But you know, but really interesting stuff. And I suppose I'll let Cliona and Laura, who are the experts in this, in now to talk. But you know, I mean, there really is no reason, and I'll throw this over to both of you, you know, in terms of why students should actually go for this. Can you comment on why students should go for this, Cliona or Laura, whichever you want to first start?
Yeah, I'll start. Sure, Dawn, thanks for that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Can you hear a lot of feedback? Is it?
Yeah, I am hearing feedback. I was just about to privately text Caroline there to see was her microphone on by accident. It's gone now, so Caroline must be in the background sorting it out. Yeah.
So as you say, Dawn, yeah, there's no reason why anyone shouldn't apply for this, because it's an amazing opportunity. It's a life-changing opportunity. This year we funded 42 new scholars to go out to the USA, Canada, and the UK to do either 1 or 2 year master programs in all disciplines. 29 different disciplinary areas, including interdisciplinary study. So it's really a question of, you know, is studying abroad at master's level something you think you'd like to do? I think it's transformative in the sense that, you know, adapting to a different culture, even one that speaks your language, is a huge developmental challenge. So I think it's culturally and socially very developmental at this stage in life to go abroad for a while. I kind of think a year is a minimum. And I think that getting the opportunity to do that while simultaneously kind of exploring your passion, whatever that field or that challenge might be, is just phenomenal. And I'm delighted to be in a position to help some of you get there. So please don't feel that it's something that's out of reach, because, you know, this isn't about finding the 0.001% of super brains. This is really about finding intelligent people who are creative and committed and passionate about making a difference in their field. And people who we think will be the trailblazers within their field in the next generation. So if you think that sounds like you, then this is the opportunity to explore.
Yeah, and I think that's a really valid point, because when people, and particularly students and graduates, because this is for recent graduates as well, right? It's for final years this year, but it's for people who have graduated or are graduating this year too. You know, I think when they see the word scholarship, they automatically think, oh, these people are the 4.0 or, you know, 1H GPAs kind of piece, and that's not the case actually. You know, that, you know, you're looking for a flavored piece as well, and it's not always those 4.0 GPAs that are the flagships for their.
No, absolutely. And I mean, you and I both know this from our Access background, but this scholarship is open to people who you know, are mature students. It's also open to people who, you know, may have struggled to reach their potential until the latter parts of their degree. So sometimes, you know, you're leaving cert or year 1 or year 2 or your degree, there can be a lot of stuff going on, and it can be difficult to reach that kind of peak of your ability. But if you feel that you're just kind of at the jump off point now as you close your degree and you're hungry for more, then this is the opportunity to pursue.
Yeah, brilliant. So Laura, what, you know, in terms of what your thoughts on all of that is, you know, why should people go for it?
I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure if that background is me because I think it went away when I muted myself, but I live by a road, so that could be
Okay.
picking it up. Honestly, I think I can only speak from where I felt. I didn't actually know about the scholarship this time last year. I only found out about it the bottom of one of Dawn's career emails that she sent out every week in like the end of November. And I just like, and I'm not sure, hopefully there's people have a little more confidence than I did this time last year, but I thought it was so out of my reach. I thought like kind of what you were saying there, oh, this is for like the top, 2-5 people in their courses, like this is really, out of my reach. But it's not. And like, I think especially because it's so open to any discipline and there's no restriction on the type of discipline that you can bring. Like art therapy to me in Ireland is not very well known. So I thought, like, who are these people to want to support me to do something that people don't know about, or that, isn't, kind of like a really like well packaged degree that looks good and everyone will, know exactly what it is. And I just think there's no harm in applying and just putting yourself out there, and trusting that what you've done already is good enough and that you are worthy enough to go and abroad and study, and that you are worthy enough to be supported as well. Like there really is nothing to lose in applying. And even for me, I was a little less confident in myself, and I just thought, well, at least if I apply, it's a great way, especially because I was in psychology, and psychology is very much so a course that typically leads to postgraduate study. And I was like, if anything, it's just practice for applications. And the application itself, specifically for George Moore, I found was really like self-reflective. And I had just spent the year, or I had just graduated. Sorry, I had just graduated in maybe about 2 weeks before I came across George Moore Scholar Program, and it just gave me the time to actually process what I went through and to like kind of almost synthesize everything I'd been through. My academic kind of career had stopped at that point, and if anything, it just helped me to really reflect on that. And that's kind of how I treated it a little bit, because I'd kind of taken out the whole kind of the pressure of thinking you have to be the best of the best, and tried to just use it as a way to kind of synthesize what I've done and what I think I can do in the future as well for my field and what I wanted to do.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, so in terms of then, so that's, so students really, regardless of your discipline, because, whether that's however creative, business oriented, and this covers absolutely everything. So, this is something that you should really be thinking about in terms of no matter what your discipline is. What should a student or a recent graduate do then to kind of give them the best chance of success? What is it that they should be thinking about right now? I mean, Laura, I know you were talking about kind of taking that time to synthesize in terms of what you've done and going forward. But I suppose, what would you say that the first steps would be?
I think logistically is start the application, open it up and start it. And it's very easy to think about it, and to doubt yourself, and straight up, like, that whole idea of scholarship can be really daunting. But I think if you start the application, I think as well, the application itself is not that difficult. There's a lot of parts of it that are quite like almost, I don't want to say logistical, but like you do your academic CV and things like that. But I think by starting it and just getting it, kind of being able to reduce it to what this application is and what the questions are, and then go from there, because you can get very much so in your head about this is a massive thing and it's a scholarship and all this, but I think the best thing you can do is just start the application and read the questions. I found probably the most important thing for me at that point was the 2 essays, the 2 statements that you had to write as part of the application, because I really felt that, I felt that for me at the time, my academic kind of standing was already determined. I couldn't change that. It was there. I could put that into my CV, but I felt that I really was able to, through the personal kind of statement and then your objective of study statement, for those 2, that was where I could really contextualize and give more background and context to why, who I was and who was behind the CV. But yeah, I honestly think the best thing to do is to start your application. Just start it. because you will be more likely to finish it once you start, and just keep with it. And also I think like logistically referees are quite important. And one thing that I kind of almost kind of was a little bit of a mistake was I left it quite late to tell my referees when to submit, and I didn't realize at the time, around Christmas time coming into December, that they are grading, they are doing assessments, they're planning for their holidays, and there's also a lot of other people that are also applying for masters in Ireland or wherever, and they do give out, you know, references to lots of people. So to get in contact with them as soon as possible, even if you're not going to apply, you'll have a reference ready for you. If you end up not replying, you'll still have that reference. But I feel like those two things, to start your application and start thinking about the referees.
Yeah, I love that piece of advice, because I do think that those personal statements, for example, they take a bit of work. They do. Your first draft isn't going to be your final draft, and you do want other people to kind of be, you know, to throw that out there as well to other people and get them to have a look at it as well, you know, and get them to give you some feedback, and then redraft and redraft a couple of times, because you obviously want to give yourself the best chance, right? And that's not to try and throw loads of work in people's direction, but you do want to articulate yourself in the best way that you can, and that doesn't come up. That's, for a lot of people, that isn't your first draft.
No, but I will say, even for those statements, you have it in you. Like for the people that are here today, they already have something in their mind. There's a reason that they're thinking about going to study abroad. There's like, you know, there's something has you here, and that is what you want in your statement or in your especially your objective of study is, you know, even if you don't know you know, where exactly you want to go, you've already got the roots for that, because the fact that you're here today means that you're interested and you've got an idea. There's something in your head sparking like, this could be for me. And those, they're like, you know, that's what I think is important with those statements. Like I used to personally avoid in leaving certain personal essays, hated writing about myself, just was like, oh, I don't want to write that. So this was my first personal statement to ever write. And looking back, I just think, like, there's nothing too new there. I wasn't making any new discoveries. I was simply just bringing out what I already had known about myself, and that was kind of the main part of it. So they're not too daunting, I don't think.
Okay. Cliona, did you want to say anything there, or I can move on? Is there anything that you wanted to add? Where should people start?
Okay. I'm unmuted. Yeah, they're very good points that Laura makes. I'd add a couple of things to the point about start your application now. The link is available on georgemorescholars.ie, and I agree with Laura, start it now, because there are quite a few bits. It's not that complicated, but there are bits and pieces that you need to get going on quickly. And the first thing, apart from starting the application, the second thing I would say is start your research. So look into start kind of making a short list of the courses and the places that you'd be interested in going. They don't have to be Ivy League institutions. They don't have to be, you know, it's more about the disciplinary fit and the course fit and the rationale for that course for you. What's it going to do for you that will help you to realize your full potential in your field? So look into the course while you're starting your application, and then you'll get a shock when you start looking at the prices in the US, because the tuition price in the US is the most expensive in the world. Don't be scared, they are big ticket prices. So there are, you know, in some institutions in the US, they will reduce your tuition. They'll do a tuition waiver. They'll have scholarships available themselves or whatever. But just for the purposes of this application, submit a full budget. That means you submit a budget that includes your tuition, your living costs, your travel costs, and, you know, there'll be some visa and health costs as well. And do some research around, you know, what would all of that amount to? I just came in at the end of a conversation between Laura and Dawn that reflected a conversation I've heard a few times in the last few days, and that is there are some moving in costs, you know, pillowcases, chairs, things like that, things you don't anticipate you're going to have to buy when you move into an unfurnished apartment. So like do your homework on the budget. It doesn't mean if you're selected as a scholar that they can do 100% of the cost if your budget is 80,000 or 100,000 or whatever, but they will go as far as they can on that cost, provided you're selected, and you can't be selected unless you start your application. So as Laura says, it's not that complicated. You need to get 2 references, preferably academic references. That means you need to cultivate those people now, because you may not have seen them ever or for a while. I would say give them as much information about yourself as you can, including your CV, to make it easy for them. And you need transcripts, so from your institution. If you can't get full transcripts for the duration of your time there, even get the last year or 2 of results. And then you do your budget piece, and you do 2 statements. So as Laura said, you do a kind of a research or taught master's statement, a study objective. They're not huge. They're 3,000 characters, I think. No, words. 3,000 words, probably. No, 3,000 characters. Sorry, words would be far too many. 3,000 characters each. But that's almost harder, as you know. Doing a short essay can be harder than a long essay. So write, rewrite, get your friends to look at it, you know, take the critical feedback, and keep working on it. Give yourself time, give yourself a bit of distance, walk away from it, come back to it. And then you'll see, as Laura says, the synthesis between the study objective and the personal statement and how they all marry up. That will crystallize for you over time, because this is really about shaping the next phase of your life. So it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a bit of a journey for the next few months, but give yourself time to do that journey justice. So that's what I do.
And what I'd like to add to that is that I'm here to support you. I'll be one of those friends to actually work on those statements and that kind of thing with you. So just to know that you do have support there as well, you know, a critical eye to have a look over and to kind of really kind of articulate what it is that you want to say. So just to throw that in there. You know, and also if you do have any questions, anybody in the audience, just throw it into the questions box there. I'm asking questions that I have here, but obviously questions coming from the floor are really welcome as well. And I possibly didn't say that at the start, so sorry about that. Okay, so that's great, really good in terms of, you know, just kind of starting and getting into that, because it does take a bit of time. And the shorter the essay, you're right, it is more difficult to put together then sometimes. So because you've got to get concise with what it is that you're saying and make what you're saying, you know, make it pay dividends. So, you know, what is it that then, you know, in terms of I don't know, maybe you could talk about this from your perspective, Laura, but you could certainly talk about this, I'd say, Cliona. But, you know, what does make a good application? What is it that you're kind of looking for?
Okay, so we're looking for what makes a good application. I would say hard work to start with, because, you know, nobody who's been selected as a scholar has submitted anything other than an excellent application. And they've done that because they've really put a lot of thought into it. There were no shoddy applications. In fact, overall, there were very few weak applications. And I suppose what sets some people apart from others is the crystallization of that objective, you know, and how they synthesize it with their development as a person. So it's really getting to grips with what it is about where you want to go and what you want to do that will be transformative for you, and where you see that bringing you. And I think a lot of it as well is about expressing that in an authentic way, you know, so not kind of LinkedIn jargon or this or that, or just being yourself, absolutely being your best self, honest, open, truthful about what's brought you to this point, and excited about what's going to happen next. You know, that kind of authenticity is what I think you could say, kind of almost it's what connects all the scholars, that passion for their field and their authenticity. So
okay, so there's something about kind of just being able to capture that, and being yourself. You know, we're not looking for jargon here, we're looking for the real you, I suppose, in some ways. I do have a question here from the students. If your thesis is not going to be submitted until February, is it better to wait till the next year to apply because you may not be sure what you want to research further?
I mean, I think you could start, you don't need, for the application for this, you know, it's not a thesis. Like we're just asking for 3,000 characters. So I'd say if you're uncertain or unsure about going abroad and what you want to study, then certainly you could wait till next year. But if there's a question mark and you're wondering if maybe there is something out there, and that's why you're on this call, then I would say allow yourself the enjoyment and the pleasure of dreaming and going online and exploring the possibilities, and stay open-minded about that. And something might grab you as a possibility. You don't need to know exactly, you know, you're not meant to know the content of the master's before you've started the master's. But if it sounds exciting, if it sounds like something you would be good at and interested in, then you don't need to be an academic expert to apply for it. So.
Okay, thanks. And Laura, did you know it was art therapy for you? Was that absolutely something you knew last October, November, or was this something that kind of came out as you went through this application process?
I kind of knew. Mine is a co-op master's, so I didn't have to put forward a research proposal. So I guess that's a little different. I didn't have to have too much. I put forward my knowledge of the program and what I, you know, really wanted to study within that. I do have the option for a thesis in my second year, but it's not, you know, and I think possibly a lot of the psychology masters can be research focused. But yeah, I personally kind of knew what I wanted to do. It certainly changed, and you know, even I guess art therapy, even in the US, it's still developing there. So within that, there was still a lot of exploration and finding, you know, where it was I wanted to go. And, you know, I think, you know, one of the things, and like Cliona was saying about like dare to dream, because in America, there's so much variation in just like one, like for psychology, let's say, the variation in master's programs that you could possibly study in one state in the US is incredible. So there is something out there, and I think like you will find it, and you should look, especially when you've got that backing. If you go for the George Moore Scholarship and you have the possibility to be backed by them, like you just go for it and see what's out there. There's so much out there. It can be a little daunting. There is a lot of like websites online that help you to filter down. But yeah, even if you're not sure right now, you don't have to do that part of the application yet either. Like Cliona was saying, do your research right now and like maybe work on your referees or the other parts of the application, like your academic CV and stuff like that, and then come back to the more like objective study. But take the time to actually really look into it. And, you know, even if your thesis, you know, my thesis was on climate change in psychology, and I'm certainly not doing a master's that is really related to climate change anymore. So I wouldn't determine yourself by your thesis either right now, especially because like if it's due in February as well. There's a long time before then, and you know, if you're not sure it's something you want to do, then I wouldn't confine yourself to that, but I would still explore it outside of that and see what is out there that you might enjoy doing, because there's so much.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you were saying to me in our earlier conversation was that, you know, you're just kind of blown away by the fact that you're actually studying in somewhere where the founders of art therapy, you know, they started this course, you know, and that's just phenomenal for you. And that is a real kind of dream, you know, and for people who are listening to this, you know, this could be your journey too, in terms of, you know, having access to that type of knowledge base. Imagine, you know, you're now studying with the world's leaders in your particular field. that's just an opportunity that doesn't come by every day. So it is about kind of dreaming big here.
Definitely. And I think from some of the other scholars as well, like the professors here, I can only speak from mine, but just hearing from others, the professors are incredible. They're like leading forces in their like in mine, they're all practicing art therapists. One of my professors is the president of the American Art Therapy Association right now. And like, it is a little different, I find, from undergrad, in that you are level with those people, you sit in a room with them, and you have discussions, and your opinion is the same as theirs, and they're not teaching you, really, they're facilitating your learning, and it is incredible to be able to be like on the same level as those people. And I think it's similar across a lot of the other scholars and where they are. It really is, and that's like an important thing as well, if you are looking into like programs and stuff, to look at who are the professors, who are the lecturers in their program, and and recognizing that, yeah, like dream as big as you can, and as big as you feel that you can go, and see where you go from there, because it really is, there's no limits like with what you can do or where you want to go with this.
Okay, so thanks for that, Laura. So there's a question for Cliona here from Keith regarding someone on a scholarship who goes on to a master's. Is it a possibility for somebody who has maybe studied a master's last year, who already has a master's, are they able to go forward for this scholarship as well?
At the moment it's restricted really to first-time master's students. So
okay,
yeah, unfortunately not. It's really because the pool of potential applicants is so wide that we have to draw the parameters somewhere.
Okay.
So it's pretty much first-time master's students.
Okay. So there's another question there. Sorry, Dana, you were asking about Stacey's video that she mentions, the portfolio day. I can get back to you on that. I can actually send you that video out again, so that I'll give you a link to that, if that's okay, because I'm not sure that the guys here are going to know that information for definite. Okay, so thanks for that. So really, it is for first-time masters. So clarifying that. Sorry about that for anybody who's listening who was hoping that was a different answer. Okay. So can you just tell me a little bit about the steps in the process? So we've talked about the application, and we've talked about getting that together and actually starting that process now. Actually, the sooner you can start that process, the better. Even just opening the documents and really having a look at what you have to do and creating a little bit of a timeline and a map for yourself and thinking about the different pieces. You don't have to be certain what the course is yet. You can't be. So because that's another piece of work that needs to be done. And again, that's something that I can help you strategize too. So again, you're not on your own with that. And it's the UK, it's the USA, and it's Canada, Cliona. It's those three destinations now, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What are the next steps in the process then? So what is the timeline? So the application has just opened. I think it was 15th of October, hasn't it?
So it opened. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you there.
Sorry. Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, it opened last Friday. It will close on the 10th of December. So the steps are starting your application on mindaclient.com, which is the online application portal. The link to that is available on the georgemorescholars.ie website. The application consists of a study objective or research/taught master's statement, a personal statement. You fill those in online. You upload academic transcripts and a CV. When you submit and you also specify a budget. You can start your application and work on it over a period of time and save your progress. I'd advise for your two statements, your budget, to do it offline and upload it, because it just gives you time to kind of continue to refine it. when you don't get the links to send your referees until you submit your application. And this is why Laura referred to this earlier. I would strongly advise you to aim to submit your application in November, because or at the very least to give your referees good advance notice, because they can write a one-page reference for you, but they cannot upload it until you send the links to them, and you can't send the upload links until you submit the application.
Okay.
So that's something to be mindful of. For instance, the closing date is the 10th of December. If you don't submit until the 10th of December, you're trying to get very busy academics to upload their reference in a 1 week time frame, because their references have to be in by the 17th of December. So get going on those quickly. Other than that, you know, once the applications are in, what happens to them is we review them all for eligibility, and then we send them out for external academic review. That's to academics who are not in the institution, or not that you're currently in, or not known to you. So it can be academics in Ireland, the UK, or the US. At the moment, we don't have any Canadian reviewers.
Okay.
They're kind of, they'll be familiar with your field, but they're not kind of, it's not a sort of academic review in the kind of Irish Research Council sense. Okay.
Okay.
It's kind of a broad review of what they think your capacity is or your capability is. And then from that academic review process happens in January. From that scoring process, we then we refine it down to about 70 candidates who we call for interview. And we aim to select about 40 of those 70 as scholars. So
Okay.
the scholars are usually interviewed. It's not a very long interview. It's 25 minutes by a panel of, you know, from the Trust, the Ireland Funds, myself, a kind of mixed panel, usually 3 or 4 people. And then we'll know kind of who our list of our top 40 is, if you don't mind the pun. Or nobody below 30 will get that reference, because there isn't a top 40 anymore, I don't think. But anyway, anyway, what happens then for 2022, what will happen is we won't allocate scholarships until you submit to us a letter of acceptance by your institution. So if you have been called for interview, if you have not been called for interview, you'll be notified in February 2022. If you've been called for interview, you will not be notified of a scholarship. You'll be invited to submit your acceptance to a course to us in March, April, May. Okay, probably there won't be many in June. Once you submit an acceptance letter from one of the institutions you've applied to, we can then kind of compare that with the outcomes on our side and make a decision around allocation of scholarship. So the kind of process this year is a little different to last year, for various reasons. But I would say, you know, apply to kind of your top institution in the States, or Canada or the UK. That doesn't mean you can't apply for other masters. Okay, you can. Okay. There were candidates this year who applied for particular courses and didn't get them, but did get into other places. And because they were kind of in our top 40, we took them for those other places. Okay. So your application to us is really make the case for your top course. We know the top course may not happen, okay? Okay. But we will consider you for the number 2 or number 3 course as well. And also, just to say, this is important, this scholarship is completely independent of any application process to a university. So all of that process is separate to this process. But this process should help you in terms of having some of the application materials available to apply to universities, because you'll have had to prepare them for this process. Okay.
Yeah. And you've got your personal statement. There are lots of things that you've got. You've got your referees now. You've got all of that. These are all in the river now in terms of going forward for this. So your next step then is the application to the university, and you're going to have to do that anyway. All right.
Yeah.
When it comes to choosing the referees, this is a question from the floor again. What would be the best advice in choosing them? And I might go to Laura on that, if that's okay, Cliona, and then come back to you. What did you do, Laura, in terms of choosing your referees?
Yeah, so I think for referees, I think they're academic referees. Your lecturers, so the people that are teaching you, I would say as recently as you can get them. So if that's just in the year before or the year right now, I'm pretty sure, unless it's changed, the requirement was recommendations that they're academic referees, because it's an academic review. It's from the perspective of your academic life. So where you are, your education, that's what they're looking for there. As far as I know, I don't think it's changed. But so when I was doing it, I went to my thesis supervisor. That is somebody, and I think most courses in IADT have some sort of a major research project or culminating project, but your supervisor is a really good person there, because they will know you and your work ethic within the academic field, and also like they have a good view of you throughout your 3-4 months working with them on your major research project, specifically for psychology. And they are in a very good place to give you a very good reference. And I think as well, having them kind of support you, they will see you, they get an active view of what you're doing and how you're working, especially as well if you are looking to do a research master's. Obviously, they are one of the best people to give you a reference, especially, if you've got a good relationship with them in that. But yes, certainly your lecturers that you're working with, and even if there's just one lecturer that you've got, that's just the relationship with them goes a little bit beyond sitting in their class, because I know last year a lot of people were online, and that's so just somebody that can speak to kind of your academic ability is the most important, and you can give them your CV that will have your other kind of achievements in there as well, and they can see that as well. But yeah, I think for me anyways, when I did it, I tried to think of, I went to my thesis supervisor, and then I also went to another lecturer that I had every year of my program, because I knew that they had seen me throughout the 4 years. We were very lucky in applied psychology, a lot of our lecturers repeat, we have them multiple years. So I went to one that would have seen me throughout those years, and yeah.
Okay, good advice. Thanks for that, Laura. Do you have anything to add to that, Cliona, or?
Yeah, Dawn, I'd just say, you might be thinking, God, I haven't actually seen any lecturers for a year and a half. But I just say to you not to underestimate the interest of the people who are teaching you in your future. So we had about 300 academic references submitted in December in the middle of a pandemic, and they were absolutely amazing. The academics from all over the country put so much effort into finding out who the person was, and really bringing a very personal flavour to their comments on each of the individuals. So don't underestimate their interest in wanting this to happen for you. Even if you think they don't know you now, they will know you if you make it your mission to get them to know you. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's just about starting a conversation, and maybe, you can send your CV, but maybe you can send kind of some of the statement that you're writing as well, to kind of give them a flavour of who you are and what you've done and that kind of thing. And that allows them in, and asking somebody to listen, come back to me if you have any questions at all, or, to start a conversation sometimes is all you need to do. But it's lovely to hear that people are out there kind of batting for you as well, that you don't even realise that you're, the academics that are working with you. And in IADT in particular, I think we do have smaller classes, so people do, you are actually visible really, and you mightn't even realize that, but that kind of is happening. I do have a question here about, and I think we kind of covered a little bit of it, but what is the actual required GPA for the application? Like what is the requirement? I think if either of you could jump in on that.
There isn't a required GPA. I mean, I don't think anyone who has been selected had below a 2.1. We don't have a required GPA. I'm sure that the institution you're applying to, if it's in the US, it will have a required GPA, but we don't. I would just say kind of a good, strong academic record.
Yeah. And I think, you know, generally for a master's, for any master's that you want to do, generally the requirement is a 2H1 or a 3.0 GPA, which is what it translates to. That's your general rule of thumb. I mean, there are some masters that go to the 2H2 level, but they're fewer and far between, to be honest. So that's kind of what you're looking for in terms of the GPA, most generally. Would you have any kind of, you know, key tips? Is there something central that you've learned along the way, whether that's you, Laura, in terms of actually putting this application together and actually, you know, and getting there and doing it, or whether that's you, Cliona, in terms of you know, in terms of seeing people applying and maybe knowing that, you know, is there an application maybe that kind of broke your heart in some way because you could feel that the person had it, but maybe they didn't articulate themselves? Like, is there something that strikes you that would be a piece of knowledge that you would like to share, or a top tip that you would like to give, if that's not too diluted and terrible of a question, or it doesn't put you too much of the spot either?
I would say two things. I would say read the website thoroughly. And follow the advice given on it, because it's there for a reason. And make sure that you spell check and structure your answers well, because you know what academics are like, and the panel are quite like this as well. So please don't submit something with typos or poorly structured, or it won't do you any, it'll look sloppy, and no sloppy candidates were selected. So I just say my top tips are: do your research, read the website, start your application early, and absolutely no typos in any of the documents you upload or anything you write. They're my top tips.
Yeah, I think they're top tips for life, really, actually, to be honest. I mean, in anything that you're putting forward for you know, whether that's a CV that you're putting forward for a job, or, you know, you go into the no pile really easily if that structure isn't there. You know, if there's a typo, the questions will generally just, you know, that starts to create a real question mark for me. So you're absolutely right. You've got to be detailed focused with this, and just really, you know, make sure that you have, you know, the usual, all of your I's dotted, all of your T's crossed, and really have made an attempt to put your best foot forward, I suppose. And Laura, anything that kind of strikes you as a key piece of, you know, knowledge or information that you'd like to throw out there to people?
Yeah, no, I think the idea of getting it proofread is so important, and by somebody who is not willing, or who is willing to tell you where there's something wrong. Like, you know, you can get people to read it that will tell you it looks great, and they won't be necessarily honest because they don't want to hurt your feelings, but you want people who will be honest about it. Me personally, I'm a very flowery writer. My characters were used in descriptive words, and I needed somebody to pull that back for me. As well, I think probably for B, the biggest thing that I would advise you to do is write it like you are going. Write it like it's happening, because that is where you will shine, and that is where you will be able to portray kind of everything about yourself that you want them to know, because the people that are reading, you know, in that first stage don't know who you are, and you want them to see you, and you want them to be able to see kind of maybe the working background of your CV, and the context of how you got to where you got, and how you got that grade or that. And I found, for me, especially with a personal statement, that I was just so honest in it, and was you know, as honest as I could be about, you know, the financial need or why I really wanted to do it. And I didn't, you know, I kind of compared to that idea of sometimes when you're applying for jobs and you just copy and paste the cover letter in. And I feel like with this, you don't want to do that. You don't want to just give a general answer. You want them to see you. And especially if it is, you know, if you've a lot of applications, I feel like the criteria gets narrower and narrower. And that whole idea of a spelling mistake can be the reason, or hopefully not, you know, hopefully it doesn't get to that, but you don't want that to be the reason why they don't look beyond you. So you want to give them as well-rounded a view of you as you can. I think, and in the personal statement, I feel like for me, that was probably most important for me was to give context and to let them see who I was beyond, you know, my academic kind of record.
Yeah, and that's great advice about just, you know, getting somebody to look at it who's actually going to give you some real, real kind of, you know, real help in terms of kind of, you know, putting it together, because, you know, we'll always go to our yes people, right? But let's actually just, you know, mix that up a little bit and know that, you know, we're getting people to look at it who aren't afraid to kind of give us a little bit of criticism and know that we can kind of take it to make it into a better document. And that's what we want at the end of the day. So really good advice on that, actually. Anything finally that you would, you know, that's in your head that you want to just say to people before we leave this? You know, we're coming close to the hour now. So what is it that you'd like to say to people that's still in your head that you want to get out there?
I would just say just do it, like just apply. I was somebody that just didn't that started it as on a whim and started it as a thing of like I had nothing to lose by doing it. And then that whole crystallization that happened as I applied, and I was like, oh, this could happen. And then I was like, I really want this to happen. And that kind of happened. And you know, I just think like it is so possible. Like I did not believe that I would be sitting in America right now this time last year. I had no idea of George Moore Scholarship Program at this point last year. And it is within your reach. It is within everybody's reach here. Like it's so possible for you. And I would say to just apply. And even if you're somebody that's taken the year out, I didn't take the year out, but I wasn't like in my year of graduate. I just graduated. So even if you're one of those people, and you know, because I worried about my referees and things like that and not having, you know, the direct connection anymore and stuff, but still apply those, especially in IADT. I will say that the lecturers in that will do everything for you, and people probably know that already from in the courses. You get to know them so well. They will do everything for you to get you through your degree and then also beyond. So to use that and just apply and see where it takes you.
Okay, thanks so much for that, Laura. Cliona, I do have. Yeah, go ahead.
Just say a big thank you to Dawn and to Laura for taking time out of the start of your day to join us and share all your thoughts with us and your great insights. And I just echo that, you know, just go on the website, read it up, start your application, dream big. And I love that way that Laura describes it, you know, write it as if you're going, you know, because that's the best way to really make it happen, to visualize it through that description that you're going to put together. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing lots of IADT applications coming in and to seeing more of you on these calls next year, encouraging the next cohort. Okay.
Yeah,
so thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Dr. Cliona Hannon for being here. Laura, thank you so much for dialing in from Washington. It's been fantastic to have you both. And to Stacey as well, you know, coming on yesterday to video from New York, you know, she really, you know, wanted to let you all know about it too. So, you know, this is a phenomenal opportunity. And if there's one thing, you know, and I know there are a couple of questions that we didn't get through, but I'll take those offline, guys. If there's one thing that I would say to you is, you know, you've got to go for this. You've got to take this opportunity and really just go for it, regardless of your discipline, you know, to really start to look at strategies around, you know, there have been a couple of questions around, you know, how do I even start to look for colleges? Well, look, let's strategize that. And I'll certainly work with you on that in terms of looking for those courses and that. So yeah, absolutely. Get the application open, have a look at what you need, and just start. I think that's the really key advice from everybody here this evening. Thank you so much for being here, Cliona. Thank you so much for being here, Laura. It was great to spend time with you, and thank you so much for all of your insights. It's been so helpful. Lots of thanks coming in from everybody who's here as well. So thanks to all of you for being here too, and really delighted to spend this evening with you. Hugely informative, very insightful. And Laura, may the road rise to meet you in Washington, and the same to Stacey in New York, and to all the George Moore Scholars. Cliona, this is just fantastic. What can I say? Thanks so much.
Thanks
all right,
so much.
Take care, everybody.
Bye,
have a
Laura.
great evening and have a good day. Bye, Laura. Bye, Cliona.
Bye. Bye.